You've heard the hype, but is Taylor Jenkins Reid's Reidverse really worth reading? Let's deep dive into the world of celebrity, fame, secrets and heartbreak to find out. Talking about it, I just want to read it again, to be honest. Now, if you're any sort of a reader, and I'd like to think you are because you're watching the channel, then you've probably heard of Taylor Jenkins Reid. Today we're going to dive into her Reidverse stories, which are all different standalone separate books, but they are all in an interconnected universe, so you do get little cameos from some of the other characters in the other books in there. I actually really liked those details. So I have read and I have reviewed them all, and I'm going to break them down into the pros and the cons of each book, but also where I would rank them in the Reidverse universe and whether I think overall the Reidverse universe is worth reading. I hope I said that right. How many husbands is too many? Is there evidence of an affair? Is this book fresh as a daisy? Is this a Malibu Rising? Guess who's back? Now, before we start, I have, as usual, done some visual nods to each individual book, but also for the universal theme, which is the Reidverse. So see if you can catch them all. Now, I'm going to review them in the advised order that they suggest you read them in, and that is also the chronological order of the books that start from, say, the 60s, 70s upwards. So the first book in the Reidverse is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. So if you haven't heard of the book The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, the book centres on Evelyn, surprisingly, who is a retired, reclusive Hollywood icon who has been out of the limelight for many years. She has decided that now is the correct time to tell her scandalous life story, but she surprises everyone by deciding Monique Grant, who is a relatively unknown writer, should tell her story. And that is essentially how the story starts. So, what are some of the good parts of the book? Evelyn is just such a fantastic character. She's not your usual goody two-shoes type character. She's actually pretty flawed and unlikable at certain points. And actually that is why it's so compelling. I can't remember loving a character as much as I have done for Evelyn in quite a long time, to be honest. Evelyn's life is of the rich and famous, obviously, but also how she gets there. So it's the ups and downs of that, and honestly it's just fabulous to read about. I loved the manipulation of the media in the book and how it was to sway the public's opinion. I've always found stuff like that really fascinating. This book is actually what I wanted The Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry to be like. They both have very similar stories and plot lines, however there's no comparison. This book absolutely outshines The Great Big Beautiful Life by a country mile. There are so many themes to the book. So we've got love, you've got forbidden love, you've got celebrity, fame, film, and they're all just done so wonderfully, and I just love Taylor's writing. It's just so beautiful. In addition, I have mentioned there are little cameos from some of the other characters in the other books, and this one is a particular highlight. And here are some of the parts I didn't necessarily enjoy in the book. Be warned, there are some definitely darker themes in the book. It's not just celebrity and fame, but I have to say I think the book is so much richer for it. Here are some of my favourite quotes from The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Some marriages aren't really that great. Some loves aren't all-encompassing. Sometimes you separate because you weren't that good together to begin with. No one is just a victim or a victor. Everyone is somewhere in between. People who go around casting themselves as one or the other are not only kidding themselves, but they're also painfully unoriginal. You do not know how fast you have been running, how hard you have been working, how truly exhausted you are, until someone stands behind you and says, "It's okay, you can fall down, I'll catch you." So I fell down, and Harry caught me. So, I'll be doing a ranking of the Reidverse a bit later in the video, But before we move on, just make sure you have all the nods to the book. So the next book in the Reidverse is Evidence of the Affair. Evidence of the Affair is only told in letter form, and it is between Carrie Soto and David Meyer, and they correspond with each other because they believe that their spouses are having an affair with each other. It's a little novella in the Reidverse universe, and it's only 88 pages long, so it's a really short read. So I'm actually going to do the good and the bad parts of the book together, and I think you'll see why. As mentioned, the book is told only in letter format, and that's actually quite a unique way to tell the story. So you get the views from Carrie and David writing to each other about the situation at the time and their perspective and their point of view on that. However, because it is told like that, only in letter form, it does mean the writing is actually quite shallow and it doesn't go in depth to the story. And that's a bit of a shame because Taylor's writing is so beautiful, it just doesn't showcase it. It also verbalises the heartbreak and betrayal of an affair, so I'm going to put that in the good and the bad columns. I really like the ending as well. Here are some of my favourite quotes from Evidence of the Affair. It is funny the crazy things our brains make up to save us from the truth. My world is black and white, and you are Technicolor. Thank you. So next up in the Reidverse universe we have Daisy Jones and the Six. Daisy Jones and the Six is focused on a fictional rock band and their rise to fame in the music industry. It is set in the 70s and it's definitely one for the music lovers. It is told only via dialogue, which again is a very unique way to tell a story, and it is essentially them being interviewed about their time before, during and after the band. So what are some of the good parts of the book? You do get a lot of different perspectives of the same situation. For example, you get all the different POVs of the band, plus also people who are outside the band as well. You do root for the characters, even if you do get slightly frustrated with them at certain points. The characters are all flawed, but that actually makes it even more realistic. I liked the ending, and I didn't see it coming. I do think it's a really fascinating insight into being in a band, so the rise to fame before, during and after. And here are some of the things I didn't necessarily enjoy in the book. If you said to me, a dialogue-only book, as a reader, that does not appeal to me. However, I had heard the best way to read this book by others is to listen to the audiobook, and that is exactly what I did, and that is the way I would recommend you read it as well. I find it personally, when one voice actor voices loads of different characters, it's such a distraction to me because I feel like it detracts away from the story a bit. It's very jarring, one voice doing loads of different characters. This audiobook does not do that. You get loads of different voice actors, and actually it really makes the book for me. As a rock band in the music industry, as you can imagine, there is definitely talk of sex, drugs and rock and roll, and the overuse of some of those. So if that is not your thing, just be aware of it. Here are some of my favourite quotes from Daisy Jones and the Six. You have to have one person in your life that you know would never do anything to steer you wrong. They may disagree with you, they could even break your heart from time to time, but you have to have one person, at least, who you know will always tell you the truth. It's the ones who never loved you enough that come to you when you can't sleep. Shut up, I'm reading. So the fourth book in the Reidverse is Malibu Rising. Malibu Rising centres on the Reidverse family, who are somewhat famous. They are all getting ready for their big annual blow-up party. But as the party progresses and gets more and more out of control, Some family secrets get revealed, and the ending is explosive. So what were some of the good points of the book? I was a huge fan of the dual timeline aspect in the book, so the present day with the siblings and the party, but also in the past with their mum and dad's love story. I just thought the way it was told was... Also, Hudson's early story and June's reaction to it, it really made my heart ache in a good way. I was actually a big fan of all the characters, but especially June and Nina. I quite like love stories set in earlier times like the 50s, 60s, etc. because they're so different to how they are in the modern day. In one way, they're much easier, but in another way, they're actually much harder. I actually really like all the other subplots as well that make up the book. But what are some of the parts I didn't necessarily like? There are definitely some sad parts to the book, and at times my heart ached for the characters. I think if you described certain aspects of the book to me, I don't think I would have liked the sound of it. For example, a rich family throw an out of control party. But this book is so much more than that. It just really worked for me overall. Here are some of my favourite quotes from Malibu Rising. Nina understood, maybe for the first time, that letting people love you and care for you is part of how you love and care for them. She had to choose what, of the things she inherited from the people who came before her, she wanted to bring forward, and what, of the past, she wanted to leave behind. There's no room for you in my life anymore, and I don't owe it to you to make any space. And finally, book number 5 in the Reidverse is Carrie Soto is Back. Carrie Soto is a multiple championship winning retired tennis player, but when someone beats one of her records, Carrie comes out of retirement to win back the title. It's as simple as that. So what were some of the good parts of the book? I really like the characters of Carrie and her father Javier. Don't get me wrong, Carrie isn't exactly a lovable character. She's pretty unlikable actually at times, and she's rude and abrupt, straight to the point. However, she unapologetically goes for exactly what she wants. In addition, I thought the father and daughter relationship was really sweet as well. I like the tennis and the strategy, how it was written into the book. As someone who can't even lift a tennis racket, even I found it fascinating. How a professional sports athlete observes their opponent and uses some advantages against them to win. There is a minor subplot of romance, which is surprisingly endearing. There are some sports programme interludes throughout the book, and it's a really fun element because it's basically the presenters saying who they think might win the match or the tournament, etc. And especially if you listen to it on the audio book, it's voiced by different voice actors, and it does actually sound very much like a sports programme. I also liked the ending, and here are some of the parts I didn't necessarily enjoy in the book. There are definitely some sad parts to the book. Also, this is going to sound like a ridiculous complaint, bearing in mind what the book is about, but there is a lot of talk of tennis and the strategy around it. Don't get me wrong, I have no issue with that. Obviously, that's what the book is focused on. But I kind of feel like if some of the other subplots were a bit more prominent, it would round out the book a lot more, and I just think it'd be a bit more enjoyable, that's all. Here are some of my favourite quotes from Carrie Soto is Back. We live in a world where exceptional women have to sit around waiting for mediocre men. Some men's childhoods are permitted to last forever, but women are so often reminded that there is work to be done. One of the great injustices of this rigged world we live in is that women are considered to be depleting with age, and men are somehow deepening. Oh no! So that is all the books in the Reidverse, but how would I rank them in the Reidverse, and would I recommend that you read them all? So, in last place, or 5th place if you will, we have Evidence of the Affair. Now, first of all, I don't think it's any surprise that a novella is ranked the lowest against full books. However, it's not just that. Like I said, the book is told only in the letter format, so it's quite shallow and doesn't showcase Taylor's beautiful writing as much as I would like. That being said, it's still a great little novella and I rated it 3 stars. Now, you might think the next bit is a bit of cop-out. However, I did rate the next 3 books as the same exact star rating because I believe that's actually what they deserve. So I'm going to try and put them in order, but it is really hard. So the next book is Carrie Soto is Back. There were some really interesting insights into the sports world for me, and especially from an older female player. In addition, I really liked the father-daughter dynamics within the book because Carrie is so ruthlessly ambitious. And whilst her father is ambitious, he does have that softer side too. The reason I would rank Carrie Soto is Back a bit lower than the others is, like I said in the review, the focus on tennis and strategy is a lot of the book. And I just feel like if some of the subplots were a little bit more prominent in the book, it might rank a bit higher. So Carrie Soto is Back is number 4 in the Reidverse for me. So the next book with the same star rating is Daisy Jones and the Six. I know this book is beloved and I understand why. As someone who is really interested in the music industry, I found it very intriguing. The reason I ranked it in the middle was I just don't think a dialogue-only book would appeal to me as much in book form. It was actually the audiobook that made it for me. But obviously, if you're interested in the music industry like I am, I would recommend you read the audiobook. And so the top book in the same star ranking is Malibu Rising. It is essentially because of the love story, but also the many other soft plots that make up the book too. The book's storylines broke my heart, but also warmed it as well. And I really didn't expect to like this book as much as I did. Plus, the ending is pretty explosive. So, drumroll please for all these 3 books of the same star ranking. The star ranking is 4.25. These books are way above average for me. The writing is beautiful, it's compelling, and they are all brilliant in their own way. So that just leaves the top spot, and you may have worked it out already, but that means number 1 in the Reidverse for me is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. What a book this is. Now don't get me wrong, I had heard good things about the book, but I do tend to take other reviews with a pinch of salt because obviously people's tastes are very different sometimes. There is so much to this book. There's celebrity, fame, media, secrets. It's a very complex, deeply emotive and intriguing book. I definitely shed a tear or two, and I don't think I could say enough nice things about it. So I just suggest that you read it. I was really torn about what star rating to give the book, but I did settle on a 4.75. I really wanted to give it a 5 star, but the reason I held back was, funnily enough, even though it was such a brilliant book and I really enjoyed it, I just didn't get that urge to keep picking it up. Once I was reading it, I just kept reading, but I just felt like for a 5 star book you need that urge to keep picking it up. So that is all the ratings of the books in the Reidverse, but the big question is, would I recommend you read all of the books in the Reidverse? Well, I think it's pretty obvious. None of the full books had a rating below 4.25, so yes, obviously I would recommend you read the books if they sound appealing to you. Obviously my top recommendation has got to be, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. So before we wrap up, I'm going to show you the nods to the books. The universal theme for the Reidverse were, obviously, just the various books, but also my Kindle, because I read a couple of the books on there, which was Malibu Rising and Evidence of the Affair. In addition, as a nod to the Reidverse universe, I included the Earth. The nods to the 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo are the star for Hollywood / celebrity, the heart for the romance, the various male figures, and yes, there are 7 for all the husbands, the green dress as that is Evelyn's signature look, plus the blonde wig for her hair, plus I included the treasure chest because obviously she's rich and famous. The nods for evidence of the affair were the palm tree and the sun as it's set in California, the heart locks but separated for a broken romance, and the paper and pencil for the letter writing. Daisy and the Six had these nods: the guitar for the band and the instruments, the microphone for the same reason, the paper, pencil and the camera for the interviews, and the drinks for the alcohol mentioned in the book. The nods for Malibu Rising were the surfboard as the family ride the waves, the sand castle and the beach picture for the Malibu setting, the drinks for the party, the heart for the romance, and the leather jacket for Mick Reaver, their dad, in the book. And finally, the nods for Carrie Soto is back were the sunglasses as she wears them on the book cover, the tennis racket and the ball for the tennis, the heart for the subplot of romance, the camera for the media coverage in the book, and the flowers as Carrie is sent a bouquet in the book. If you have liked the video, please do like and subscribe. It helps the channel a lot. I cannot tell you how much I enjoyed reading all the books in the Reidverse by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I wouldn't normally say historical fiction is one of my top genres, but Taylor has such a beautiful way of writing and the books are emotional and deep and complex. They sometimes break your heart, but they also warm it too. Taylor is definitely now one of my favourite authors without doubt, and I do urge you to read one of her books if you haven't already. Talking about Taylor Jenkins Reid, her newest book, Atmosphere, is out now, and I've done a book review on it. Check it out here.